What's up, everybody? Welcome to the PixelPlay Podcast. My name is Adam, aka CS Radical, joined with me this evening, or this morning, or tonight, or this afternoon. I don't know when the hell you're listening to this show. Mr. Jin and Chris, how are you doing?
Fantastic. I'm doing fantastic. How are you doing?
Not too shabby. Kaylan, obviously, as you can tell, is not actually J. Jonah Jameson. He is just away. He's out sick this week, so it's the perfect time for us to basically talk about the game that I know he hasn't played, because,
Yes.
he wants Spider-Man, but he's too busy playing Starfield. So, oops, his loss. Why? I shouldn't say his loss. Starfield and Baldur's Gate 3 seem like two pretty good games to be playing, so I guess it's not the worst thing in the world. No, I think he might be okay.
No. Yeah, and they're also two of the biggest games that exist, lengthwise. So he's gonna be busy for a while.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense for us to obviously talk about Spider-Man. It was a I should say relatively short, because we think AAA games nowadays have to be 100+ hours. It seems so. This, I think, did we both have around the same completion time? Because I think we both did somewhere around the mid-20s.
Yeah, mine was early 20s, 22 hours or something like that. The PS5 got stupid and for some reason didn't count 5 hours of my playtime for some reason on the
it's hard to tell how the time is sometimes, because the other thing too is I also just will walk away from my console at times, so I'm I don't know if I actually played you for 25 hours, but your console says that it's been that, so sure, I guess. I mean, I know it was definitely 20, because I probably spent 12 to 14 hours on Saturday playing it. So
yeah, I did the same, but on Sunday, the exact same thing. It's a
pretty difficult game to put down, honestly.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've run into a game that's held me that hard, where I can't, where it's going to get something to eat is actually a mental struggle because I have to stop playing.
All right, usually it wasn't that far, it might not be that hyperbolic, but okay. So obviously, again, because Kaylan's not here and it's easy for us to now tell him what he's been missing when he's not here, we're going to do a spoiler-free review of Spider-Man 2 on this show. Normally, Friday is our side quest. We're actually going to put in our big, long conversation. Full spoiler cast will be on that. So for now, we're just going to be doing... This is probably going to be a shorter episode, too, because we didn't really come up with another topic to talk about, so it's just basically us talking about Spider-Man without overly spoiling you guys.
Yeah.
But before we do that, is there anything else you've been playing in the meantime? Have you been making progress in anything?
Yes, I've been playing. The only other game I'll mention that I've been playing that's worth really bringing up is Super Mario Wonder. I started playing that as well. I caved. I was I have Spider-Man, I have these other games, Starfield and stuff I got to be playing. And I was I don't know, this some of the footage I'd seen, and I watched the Digital Foundry review of it for Super Mario Wonder, and I was oh, I gotta try it. And honestly, it's one of the greatest games again this year that I've played. This year is the year for video games, I'm convinced, because this Super Mario Wonder, and this is something that was in the Digital Foundry review, a comment they made, which is what sold me on it. They said it felt like a true sequel, or a modern sequel to Super Mario World. It actually gives that same feeling of the Super Nintendo 2D Marios versus the new Super Mario Brothers games, which for me, always the controls felt a little floaty, a little off, it didn't feel the exact same. Whereas this, they've changed the controls to feel like Super Mario World with a little bit of Super Mario RPG when you're walking around on the world map and stuff. But it's honestly probably the best 2D Mario game since the Super Nintendo era. I honestly would put this right up there as being only behind Super Mario World. It really is such a good Mario game.
So you're saying Nintendo is really gunning to take 2 slots in the Game of the Year discussion this year, eh?
Yeah, I doubt this will take Tears of the Kingdom, because while this is an amazing Mario game, it's not the controls are a lot more tight. They've actually tried some new things, each level has a wonder flower that you get, and some crazy stuff starts to happening, like a stampede, an avalanche. Mario turns into a platform himself and you need to move through the level. Just Every level
I
has
think
its
there's
own
this
thing, and
weird
it
level
doesn't
too
really.
where like instead of side scrolling, it almost looks like you're walking on another plane instead. Like I'm like,
Yes,
man, that's gotta screw with you the first time you do it.
it was really weird
Because it looks
because
top
I
down, like you're
just did
almost
that
playing
level.
like an old like you remember the levels in Contra where it was actually top
Contra.
down?
That's exactly what I was thinking because today I did that level. And the crazy part is you're doing it 2D, you touch the Wonder Flower, and all it does is the level's still the same. It just takes Mario and sticks him on the back wall. So the what level already was the exact same, but for you, you were like, oh, this is a normal level. And then all of a sudden that's happening, and you're like, I never noticed the wall in the background that I thought was just background there to like look pretty. And all of a sudden you're actually using it to walk like one of those Contra levels. And it was really freaky because there's no jumping, there's no attacking. It's a pure like you got to get these like wonder seeds. There's flower seeds. Obviously there's a theme. You're in the flower kingdom. Um, so again, it's not like anything crazy is going on. It's just like really trippy. Like just very much messing with your mind because you're thinking like, oh, I'm just going to run and jump like Mario. There is things happening in it where you're like, never mind. They took some drugs and then made this level and it's amazing. Yeah, so I can't say enough good things about this. I keep like taking screenshots and videos of just the things that are happening. Not only is it a really good like old school Super Nintendo Mario game, it's just like also got some new stuff in it that they're trying that's really really working well. I'll even throw in there the fact that it has online play, but it's very interesting because I'm playing one player, so I'm still just me playing through the game. You select 1 to 4 player in the beginning, but you can still connect to the internet. It has these flags, and I guess it's not there by default because Nintendo's protecting the kids and all that kind of stuff. But you turn that flag on, and all of a sudden on the world map, you just see a whole bunch of ghost characters of other people playing the game. And in real time, you're seeing what levels they're going to. You can see who's just standing there in the overworld dropping like emojis and stuff for people as they go by. Then when you go in a level, you'll see up to 3 other people playing that level with you. And it's not like they're like if they jump and hit a block or kill an enemy, it's still there for you. The only thing is you're still seeing them play. And if you die, you become a ghost, and one of them can touch you to bring you back. You can drop items for each other to help each other out. And you can also drop these weird signs that are just Mario characters doing funny poses. And it's just there because if somebody dies, they can touch that sign. But most people just use it as a fun gimmick because you can collect and unlock new signs and different poses for different characters. So it's weird because you're playing a game single player, but there's all this like multiplayer stuff happening around you that you're kind of involved with, but not really. But it still makes it much more of a community game versus just the traditional Mario. So I'm finding myself going to this a lot, and I'm actually telling myself to pace myself so I don't burn through it so quick because it's still only like 6 worlds plus a final world and that kind of stuff. Like it's a Mario game, right? So but I cannot say enough good things about this. There's like 15 different characters you can select to play as. Like it's just bonkers the amount of stuff that's going on in there. So much fun. Anybody likes Mario, I say get it. You won't regret it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's good to see that they're going around and actually trying a lot of new things because I mean, it's very easy for a lot of series to just kind of keep doing the same stuff over and over again. And again, we're going to be talking about Spider-Man 2 shortly, which honestly does a lot of the same things again, but it's because it works. Nintendo, for as much as we give them flack for a lot of other things, they really are a studio that is willing to try stuff the most and yet still almost make it seem like they haven't done anything because it's
Yeah.
almost the same level of quality every single time. It seems like they basically copy and paste the good parts that they do, and then on top of that, they're just like, and here's this too, along with it. And it just
Yeah.
seems to be so consistent. Now, granted, it's within very specific titles. Obviously, Mario just seems to be the de facto. They don't fuck these up. Like, I legitimately wonder if, like, lack for a better word, wonder. If there's any sort of game that we've never seen that didn't get released because they just went, no, it's bad, we can't do it. Because what's the last bad Mario game?
I don't know.
Like, if
I
we're
can't
talking
really
in the
pick one.
mainline platforming, what's the last bad one? Like, I'm sure some people will be like, oh, maybe this one on a handheld console or something like that. But it's like, you really think of the major releases, like, most people would point to Sunshine just because it's too different, but it's not like Sunshine's a bad game.
No. And that's like over 20 years old at this point. I think.
Compared to its
It's
old
got to be around.
competition, Sonic, who we can count on probably two hands how many bad games there are in that series.
Easily. It's easier to count how many good games there are for Sonic than there are bad games. And I'm sorry, Sonic. I'm sorry. It's not my fault.
Yeah, at one point it used to be 4 of them, and they were all on the same console, and then that was it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh.
And then thankfully
Bad.
Generations came out, we're like, all right, this is fine. It's not amazing, but it's fine. And then Mania finally came out, we're like, oh yeah, that's what this felt like.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, but I definitely suggest pick up Spider-Man for anybody, spoiler for later. It's a good game. Pick it up. And Super Mario Wonder, also pick it up. They released on the same day. I picked them both up. It's fine. Be like me. Spend too much money, but play all the games.
Yeah, just ignore everything else in life and just play everything. I mean, to be fair, that's all I do, so.
Yeah, it's what I did over the weekend and since, actually.
Look, we're getting closer and closer to winter. Staying inside is going to be way easier, too, so.
Yeah, I go. I'd say people wait and play the games then, but I couldn't wait, so I can't tell you in good conscience to do that.
Yeah, I was going to say, your backlog will not let you take a day off.
No, there's no day off. No.
Yeah, apart from obviously Spider-Man 2, I started to dabble a little bit in Like a Dragon Ishin, which is the samurai era video game that's done by the Yakuza guys. It's all right. Like, it does call back to the old games in terms of like its beat 'em up system. It's not the JRPG that a lot of people have started to get used to with Like a Dragon. I haven't gotten far enough to really have an opinion on it yet. Again, it's really interesting to see essentially all the characters just being reimagined as samurai now, and it's just ridiculous. So I'm open to see where they go with it. They haven't done anything wacky yet, but I also haven't gotten really far enough to see if there's anything wacky yet. Because for all I know, they might just throw. That would honestly be the biggest curveball if a Yakuza Samurai game had 0 wacky shit in it. Even though I know it's going to come at some point, that would be like the wackiest thing to happen to a Yakuza game is to not be wacky.
That would be That would be a very interesting take if they tried that.
Well, I mean,
don't know how well it would go over,
when you play a Yakuza game, if you don't do any of the side content, you actually could get by without anything really weird. It's really hard, though, because it's easy to accidentally walk into something wacky, because the side stories aren't there's not like a thing on the map for people who have never played a Yakuza game. It's not like there's a mini-map that shows, oh, there's a quest here. You could just literally happen into something. You could just walk down a street that you've probably walked down 7 times already, but because you're now at this point in the game, now there's an unlock here. And it just happens, and all of a sudden you find yourself bowling and end up getting a chicken that helps run your business. It's just how it works sometimes.
There's one person somewhere on the planet that's played all the Yakuza games and never seen a single wacky thing, and they think it's the most serious, thrilling game that's ever existed. And when people talk about how wacky it is, they're like, everybody's crazy. What the heck's wrong with them? That wasn't crazy. That was intense. That was such a good emotional moment.
Yeah, I think that would have to be like game. There would probably be better odds of winning the lottery than getting through all the Yakuza games without that, because I don't even know how you could intentionally do that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Unless you memorize all the tiles and figure out how to get around stuff. I don't even know if that'd be possible. But hey, that's not really anything to worry about, because Yakuza is fun when it's wacky, so don't ignore it. But other than that, I actually went back and replayed a game that I didn't get to finish because I actually had bug issues when I was playing it on the PC version. Because I originally played this on Game Pass on PC and wasn't able to get through because there was a game-breaking bug and I didn't feel like starting from scratch. Fast forward, I don't know how many months later now, I noticed it was on PS5 with PlayStation Plus Extra. So I went back into Lake and finished it, even though it was like literally the last day I was on. But I played it from scratch again because it had been a little bit of time. And again, it was a great game just before Spider-Man came out because I needed something that I thought I could finish in like a couple days. And I didn't really want to start anything because I sure as shit wasn't going to be keeping going with it as soon as Friday rolled around. So I went back into that. It's as chill as I remember. I started using the fast travel a lot more, which I should have done the first time, but I didn't think to because I'm just like, I'll just drive. This is chill. And then my brain went, oh, I can make these routes so much faster if I don't have to drive literally all the way around this fucking lake just to go to one place and then go back. This is so much easier.
You just blew my mind. There's a fast travel in that game?
There's a couple of little markers on the map that you can use to fast travel.
Oh my god, I drove the entire game.
I know, I did that the first time.
Oh, Oh my God. Sometimes you'd have to drive to the opposite side of the lake, and it took so long. It was chill, don't get me wrong. The whole time I was like, oh, this is a nice chill game. But if I could have sped that up so much.
Yeah, now granted, if you're ever going to the western side of the lake, there isn't really a point there. It's still a long drive depending on where you're going, but like I'm trying to think, there's either 3 or 4. I think there's 3 checkpoints. There's 4. There's one that starts you obviously right near the post office. There's one that starts you near the farm that's close to the diner. There's one that starts at the hotel, and then there's one that starts in the forest next near where that bridge is, where you go to I think it's Robert, to his cabin up there, the lumberjack dude. So I think there's 4 of them, and it does at least cut a little bit of driving time down, because my one complaint now is that game needed more music, because or just like a different genre of music, because look, I don't hate country, but like I haven't fully enjoyed country since I was like 12. So having only that was a little bit stressful, because no, I shouldn't say stressful. That's being a bit hyperbolic, but a little irritating, because I'm like, I could turn the music off, but that requires me to now open this up and turn it off. But there's also like 2 songs in there that I actually don't mind that are pretty cool. So it's like, I don't want to get rid of those either. So it's that give or take. It's like, but do I also feel like this is right playing a game about you being a post office worker in like a really small ass town in Oregon in 1987 while listening to death metal? I don't know if it works. So I just stuck with the music that I got, but hey, it is what it is. But yeah, I finally finished it. I was correct. I literally was on like the last day. So I basically just redid everything I did and finally finished it. Excuse me. I'm choking on the not lake water that I was drinking over there. I finish basically going. I left town. I obviously wasn't going to go back to the crappy job that you left from to go chill in the boonies for a little while. But I also didn't decide not to stay because there's nothing to do there. So fuck that. So I got an RV with my girl who's super into VHS tapes, and we went.
Yes, that ending. Yes. I think I saw all the endings, but I got 100% of the achievements, so I feel like I had to do all of them. I feel like I had to replay the last day a couple times. Of course you 100%ed it. Of course I did. It was so chill. And it wasn't very long to do either.
No, it's like 6 hours at most.
Yeah. And I think you just load up the last day, and when it comes to the decision to end the game, you just pick the other one, and then you reload, and then you pick the other one.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Such a good game, though.
But alas, we must talk about the actual important thing that we played. Obviously, like we said, this is going to be spoiler free, or at least we're going to try really hard. I'm not going to go anything too deep into the latter half of the game, because there's quite a lot to go through. So if you're looking for spoiler talk, obviously this show's out on Wednesday. You'll see that at Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. You'll see that up, or it may already be out depending on when you're listening to this, but either way. So we both finished Spider-Man 2. I want to, before we do anything else, talk about your initial thoughts going into this game. Because, I mean, obviously, we've kind of glanced over the idea of this game coming out in October because we were talking about it being such a busy month. But
yes,
we also really weren't, like, anticipating this, I guess, per se. It's not to say that we weren't excited for it, but this wasn't like a Starfield or a Baldur's Gate none of us was interested in, but now we all of a sudden are, because we're so curious about why this is a game of the year. But like, there are games out there. I mean, obviously you guys with Assassin's Creed Mirage, there were definitely games that there was like anticipation for. I don't feel like that was really there with Spider-Man 2. At least for me, it was more just a sense of, yeah, I know this will be good. But like, I wasn't sitting there being like, oh man.
Yeah, I think I was the same. Like I knew it was going to be a good game. Like I knew it was going to be just as good as at least the first one in the Miles Morales game. I was anticipating in the sense that I was excited for it to come out, and I knew I was going to pick it up for day one, but I was just expecting kind of more of the same. Like I loved it before, and I knew I would still love it. It was kind of like I was going out for a dinner I've had before, like a nice steak restaurant, but I've been there before, so it's not like the anticipation is, oh, I'm going to have more of the thing I like. And that was it. Like I didn't expect to be blown away, just comfort food, great game that's fun. And I would play, and it would have no chance of it being like my game of the year or anything like that. Just comfort food, good game. That's how I was going into it.
Yeah,
Which I think is same as you.
Yeah, it was very much a case of like, okay, this will probably be like, I mean, obviously we use the 6 rating for our tiers. I thought, like, okay, this will probably be a good 5. Like, I imagine that I'll have a few things to nitpick here and there, and that would be it. This is now on my list of only 3 games that have a 6 out of 6 rating that was released this year, so it is definitely going to be in my game of the year contention. And before I even go like any deeper as to why, in my honest opinion, this might actually be the best superhero game I've ever played. And and in my opinion, it's easily the better Spider-Man 2 video game. And that is a take that I'm sure some of us that grew up in that era are also going to be like, "What? How could you say that?" And then I also have to remind myself, everything seems better when it's been 20 years old and you remember only good things about it. I legitimately don't believe for a second that the original Spider-Man 2 video game had a story remotely comparable to this alone.
No. I think for the time it was obviously very impressive, but this is definitely the better of the two. Like, there's no way it's not.
Yeah, so and if I'm really thinking about, like, I'm thinking about what's its competition. Obviously, we're thinking like Arkham City, Arkham Knight, Arkham Asylum, all of those. Obviously the original Spider-Man, and then I'm trying to think if there's really anything else that like goes that deep, because I mean, if you want to go like my level of deep, we're talking like Maximum Carnage, Marvel versus Capcom, like, but those don't really carry story, they're just fun games to play, whereas this has both the emotional and the like fun value that comes with most of the games that we remember growing up with, whereas a lot of them didn't really carry an emotional value unless the emotion was just wee.
Yeah, they would just wee. Yeah, I would say the Arkham series is the only thing that's kind of in the same level, or at least in the same category of superhero games, because a lot of the other ones, like there was definitely some Avengers type of games, not even including the Avengers game, not that one. Like there was like a Thor game and a Captain America game and like a couple Wolverine games. There was X-Men Legends. Those ones were pretty fun.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance. So there's definitely been good, very good Marvel games, or even superhero games in general, because like the Batman games are in there too. But I would agree with you that I think this is the greatest superhero game ever made.
Even better than Superman 64?
I would say it just like by a hair, by a web, by a small thin web. Does it beat Superman 64?
I think that's fair to say, yeah. So obviously, again, trying to avoid spoilers in terms of the story, but like obviously everybody knew based on the cover that Venom was going to be the big part of it. So without getting too deep into what happens in this game, like how do you feel about how Venom was portrayed in this?
Easily the best iteration of Venom outside of probably actual comic books and maybe cartoons.
Yeah, like maybe the cartoon that we grew up with, like the Fox Kid era.
The 90s Spider-Man cartoon, the animated series or whatever. Because that one was obviously good. And this could be as close to that. I'd have to rewatch the Spider-Man cartoon. It's been a long time.
Like it's been so long that I can't remember much of it anymore. I just remember not hating it, but then again, as a kid, you like almost everything.
Yeah, for
that
sure.
Isn't a vegetable, essentially.
That is, yeah. But I did read a lot of the comics and stuff, especially in the 90s, where Venom was on top of the world. He was only introduced in the 80s, like the black suit and everything. And I remember a lot of those and read a bunch of those. And obviously, those are some of the best iterations of Venom that's ever existed. And I almost feel like this was based a little bit on the cartoon and on the actual comic books. Like, this Venom is the Venom we deserved and haven't had, and they've tried numerous times in movies and possibly even other games too. So I would say this is easily for me the best one.
And what it does too is it gives us the ability to at least like breathe a little lighter, like not like suddenly get like all tense when a new character gets in, because obviously there are still some heroes in the Spider-Man universe we have, or not heroes, supervillains that we haven't seen yet. So, for example, like obviously Green Goblin did not appear in the first game. I will not confirm nor deny if he's been in this one yet. But like the idea of Green Goblin, you know, obviously all our memories immediately think to Willem Dafoe, and that's basically it. Like I don't really have fond memories of him in the cartoons. So
No,
I
I don't
don't really
think it
think too
was
highly of it.
big.
But like I look at what this game did for Venom, because Venom is portrayed insanely brutal and downright terrifying in one specific instance. And we'll talk about that in the spoiler breakdown that we do later. But like there are two specific moments in this game that I went, holy shit. Actually, no, three, I should say. Three moments that made me feel either like downright terrified, like uncomfortable, or basically just shocked. Like they did a great job at making Venom actually seem like a terrifying villain rather than just being, because I mean, again, like they did the same with Kraven too. Like Kraven was the main antagonist of this game, and they portrayed him to be very diabolical, very cutthroat, very cunning. Like just you cannot fuck with this guy, because I'm sure a lot of people, when they originally saw that he was going to be a big part of it, they were like, really, Kraven, really? And by like a third the way through the game, you go, no, you don't fuck with this guy. Nope.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Kraven was definitely also portrayed in the best way that I think I've ever seen him, besides possibly again the comics. Like, so I was very surprised, because at first even I thought like kind of a weird choice. You know, the first game had so many good, strong, traditional characters that are like very well known for Spider-Man. And Kraven was always kind of like a side character, or even in the cartoons and stuff when he'd show up, he was very much just like the side story. Like maybe he'd get a couple episodes, but it was never like the big story, right? Like Kraven wasn't the one where it's like, oh my gosh, like Green Goblin or Dr. Octopus and stuff like that, that obviously had big arcs where bad and stuff and heavy stuff happens. It was never Kraven. So it was a weird choice at first, I thought, and then I was actually very happy with the way that Kraven was portrayed in this. Just very, very happy.
Yeah, and the fact that like a lot of villains get a chance to shine a little bit too, and then even some minor characters like Mary Jane really got stepped up in this game. I know a lot of people have been making jokes. Again, I won't give context as to why, but people have definitely been making some memes with Mary Jane in terms of what happens in this game. But like with her and Haley, I think they did a great job at also giving a good supporting cast. Rio also, Miles' mom, for those who are maybe like trying to remember. They give a few of the smaller roles like actually some good breathing room. They give them a chance to like put their pieces in. But obviously the big thing that we're here for is Peter and Miles. And I gotta say, like, a lot of people are a little upset because they think Peter kind of got shafted a little bit. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Because, like, yeah, Miles really shines in this game. To be fair, he probably should, because he got a really short end of the stick with his first game. So giving him a chance to really go out there, yeah, I'm okay with that. And considering how, like, we've seen Peter's story a million times now, getting a full-on, like, okay, here's Miles' coming out party with the Spider-Verse movies, like, Miles right now is kicking on all cylinders. It's just fantastic. So, like, I appreciate that they've really given him a chance to shine, and boy, does he fucking do so.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he definitely does. And how you could not think that Peter also had a really good story in this, or he didn't get a chance to shine? Like, obviously, with as everybody's seen in the trailers and on the box art, like, Peter's very involved with the whole symbiote situation, right? Everybody's seen that he's, with the symbiote suit and stuff. He has a whole big arc in this situation and a big part of the story. So it's not like he's just like off to the side doing his own thing while Miles is the main character. I felt that they perfectly balanced this being two Spider-Men dealing with their own things as well as things together and getting a chance to both shine. Like, I honestly felt like they did. That's the way I see it, like my personal opinion.
Yeah, and again, they really gave them an opportunity to really go out there, and obviously, You know, they really got a chance to like tell a story that, again, much like the first game was, has a much more different feeling to it than what we used to see. We're used to seeing much more, you know, happy. There's a moment of like, you know, divisiveness. There's a moment of struggle, but whereas in this game, it's like, holy shit, like everything is just breaking down. There's little hints at stuff that make you think like, oh man, is this gonna happen? Like there's so much of a mixture of mystery. There's a mixture of worry. There's a mixture of triumph. There's like so much happens in this very limited. Like you could finish this in under 20 hours if you really gun for it. Obviously, we both completed the overworld as much as we could because of course we did.
Oh yeah.
But like it's one of those games that I think just really fired on all cylinders. The only complaints that I really have are, well, the bugs that happened, and a lot of people, in my opinion, are also a little over analyzing what's happening here, because if you're thinking this game is buggy, yeah, you might want to put this on the list of like every other game. I think we're just looking at this in a matter of, wow, a Sony first party game kind of came out in a bit of a buggy state, which, yeah, I mean, I had 2 points that I had to restart a checkpoint. Oh, well, I lost 2 to 3 minutes. Big deal. I just had to redo a fight. Oh, no. Like, the only real major one that I had was I was doing one of the side content things on the map, and one of the enemy types somehow got into the building and was like just in, somehow had like gotten in and couldn't get out. So I tested it to see if I could manage to figure it out. So I would hang on the wall, like overhanging the skyscraper, and kept shooting webs at the window to see if they would come close enough, and they would clip out just enough that I could whack them once or twice. Then they back off for a second. I'd do it again, rinse and repeat. About 6 times later, I managed to beat that final person. So I was like, yes, triumph over the bug. But like apart from that, I'm trying to think like the other reasons I had to start a checkpoint. I think one was just because like I think I got stuck in something. I think that's what happened, which again in an open world game is not that hard to do. I was playing Star Wars in the Divine Force. I got stuck like 7 times. It's not difficult to do that in an open world game. And then I've seen people also post screenshots of like character like NPCs going through things and stuff. I'm like, have you not played an open world game before? That happens all the time. Same with like the only egregious one that I will say is there's video that shows in the cutscenes where only the neck up is being left of the characters when they're talking, which, yeah, if it's in a cutscene it's doing that, okay, yeah, I get it. But like apart from that, like it's one of those things that I said to you guys in the Discord apart from this show that I really wish, or I love the fact that I don't pay attention to social media very often, because it's stuff like this that drives me insane. Because it's this sense of like, we have to overanalyze everything. We have to point out every single mistake and act like it's a big deal. And believe me when I say, like, there is nothing in this game that is so broken that it's going to screw things up. The only thing that might is, again, the lack of body on some of these things in a cutscene, because that might screw things up depending on the scene it's in. Now, any of the video footage I've seen of it happening isn't really important footage, so it's funny, and that's about it. But like, there are some scenes where if it did that, yeah, I'd be restarting.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely some big important scenes and stuff that you want to play out flawlessly. Oh yeah.
Now to say like that, you know, they shouldn't, like Insomniac shouldn't be a little ashamed of like putting that out in that state. Yeah, I'd say it's a little disappointing that it came out in that state, but like I'm not going to sit here and act like it's such a bad state of affairs that like this isn't a Cyberpunk, guys. It's fine. Like this is about as buggy as what Starfield is, and we praise the shit out of Bethesda for this one because they're used to being more broken than this.
Yeah, so, that is true.
I think it's more of a matter of it's the one time in a while that a game of this caliber on Sony's first party side has come out like this, and I think people are jumping on it. And it's also a thing of like, and we're going to talk about some things in the spoiler review as well that I got really annoyed by. And I think, again, it's why I'm glad I don't spend too much time on social media reading shit anymore, because a lot of people were getting a little too hot for basically nothing. So.
Oh, for sure. I did have a couple other issues, like bugs wise, and it's really my only complaint about the game. And when I say complaint, I know something's going to be patched and it really wasn't a big deal. But I did have the game crash on me about 4 or 5 times. Now, I realized why it was happening and probably why it didn't happen to you as much. It's because I was opening photo mode a lot. So something would happen, I'd hit start, go into photo mode, take a screenshot. I take a screenshot. I took like probably 1,000 screenshots. This game is so beautiful. But then I would exit the photo mode, and then sometimes the game would crash. Especially if I went where like it was transitioning from one scene to the other, and then I would hit start to go into the photo mode. The odd time it would crash. But the thing is this isn't like other games because this auto saves like all the freaking time. Like I would go where it was one of the collectibles around the map where you're about to start a small fun activity of whatever, glide here, jump here, whatever, collect this. And I would start it and then it would maybe crash. Again, me going into the start menu, me doing something. It would crash, but then all I would do after the game had finished closing, I would reopen it and it would just start right from the exact moment where I was starting that new activity. Because it seems to crash during loading the next whatever it is you're doing. Loading into a collectible, loading into the photo mode. So as soon as I reloaded the game, the last autosave was the exact moment I started that activity. So it's not even like one time where I had to reload into the game. Did I lose more than 10 seconds of actual gameplay? Because I didn't have to manually restart. It seemed again to always crash right after an autosave because I was doing something else, and I guess it just overloads the system. So yeah, is that annoying? The game crashed. Yes. If this was a different game where the autosave made me lose 5-10 minutes of gameplay and it crashed 5 times, I'd be livid because that's all I care. I don't care the game crashes. I care, does it load up fast and how much gameplay did I lose? If it's 10 seconds and the game loads instantly like this, I haven't lost anything. It's a minor inconvenience in an incredible game that I know it's a launch title. It's an open world game. Like there's so many things going on here that I understood why it was crashing, and I'm not upset at it. It's the risk you take right now, unfortunately, with launch titles, which does suck. I admit that is a shame because, PS2 and PS1 and Super Nintendo never had this issue.
No,
But
but if they were
games are more
broken, they stayed
complicated.
broken.
Yeah, they'd stay broken. And these games are a lot more complicated. Like, yeah, Super Mario World worked at launch, of course. Doesn't look like this, right? Like, there's reasons that these games are more buggy and can have things like crashing issues at launch. And it's totally normal. And it did not ruin my gameplay at all. Because again, loaded right back in all 5 times. So
yeah, we're really spoiled by
slightly
like
annoying.
how things are today because if you have a crash,
Yeah.
you're in this game specifically, you're back in and out in like less than 30 seconds. When you fast travel in
Yeah.
this game, it is literally
Yeah,
you
the
fast travel
in
and
this
you're
is
basically there in a second.
it's insane how fast the fast travel is in this. I mean, it's the whole SSD, NVMe kind of thing that we've been seeing with the fast read and write speeds and stuff. And it's just funny because this is the one game that has probably the best fast travel that I've seen in a game for a long time.
And you almost never use
And
it.
I don't want to use it because the web slinging is just so much fun, and the web wings, the glider part or whatever that you see in the
Yeah, that
trailers
was going to be
too.
the last thing I want to talk about before we basically cap this off was any of the changes they made in gameplay because there's not a whole lot to talk about. I mean, without again spoiling things, but like they added a couple of things like you said. There's wings now, so you can kind of glide in the air a little bit more. I don't know if this is in the first game, but they added a point where at the beginning you can basically pull yourself back and launch yourself out. I think that's new. I can't remember if it
Think
was in the
that's
original one
new.
or not. It's been a while, so like I can't quite remember everything that was there. But like they've added a few things that made traversal even faster. They've added a few moves here and there. I mean, obviously now that you have both Peter and Miles in the game, some of the random things you come across, like any random crime that you go to help in, sometimes not even just Miles, sometimes other minor characters can pop in and also help you out. So like it does a great job of just taking, again, what we said. This is very much a similar game to what we've already played before, but they just tweaked a couple of things, added a couple more things to make it a little bit better. I know a lot of people didn't like the spider bot sections. I think there's really only one in this game, one or two, and I thought they were both fine. I mean, if that's not your thing, if all you want to do is play a Spider-Man, okay, sure, but I mean, I like the fact that the game gets a little bit different at times, considering
Yeah, the
how
variety's nice.
there are a few different gameplay options that you'll have over the course of a game, especially in the side stories that give you a couple different things, which again, I thought were great. Breaths of Fat Share, like that really helps a lot. So it's just some of those things where like they didn't do anything so drastic that it suddenly makes the game feel different. It's just improving upon it, which is why obviously I can think this is better, even in the buggy state that it is at launch. Like obviously you play this a month from now, you're not going to know whether anything really happened. This game will be fine.
Yeah.
But like even compared to like the two games when I played, because I played them both at launch, this is definitely better than the first, even though the first is still one of my favorite games from the PS4 era.
Oh yeah. And it's very much because they took an amazing game and they just added a bit to it. Like it's what was great is now greater. Like, and they did it so well where they didn't, in my opinion, they didn't drop the ball on any of these additions. Nothing, at least that's mandatory. If people don't like the new fast forward system for some reason, you don't have to use it. Like there's nothing mandatory about any of the things that I could see that people have an issue with. I personally don't think anything they added was a bad addition. I think all of it just improved on an already incredible set of games.
Yeah, and if you're not interested in things like, you know, the Prowler bases where there's these little puzzles you got to do, which take, again, like 15 seconds to do, or the, there's this like healing the world sort of like set of side quests you do where sometimes you pilot a bee drone and you try to, or is it a bee? Yeah, I think it's a bee drone.
Bee drone,
and you're
yeah.
just doing it and you're just flying around and like shooting a couple of things to try to clear the area out or stuff like that. You don't have to do any of that shit. All it really is just a little bit of extra XP, some tokens, and costumes potentially. And most of the costumes you don't need. Like the ones you get naturally from leveling up, you'll get more than enough cool shit. And again, one of them, I freaked the fuck out because I don't know if it was intentional or not, but there's one for Miles that I swear to God looks like the White Ranger outfit. And I wore that probably the most out of any costume until the very end when I felt, okay, we got to at least let Miles wear something remotely that looks like his costume before the end of the game, even though I really wanted to keep that on the whole time because it just looks so perfect.
Yeah. That was a very cool one. Very, very cool one. And in this one also you could even not customize, but there was like different variations of the costumes.
Color alternates.
Yeah, like there's so many options for the costumes that no matter what you like or don't like, you don't like a specific costume they give you, put the old one back on. Put it or change it to this other one. There's so many options that like you can't be mad at any specific thing because there's so many options and it's fully up to you. Just go in and it's like, oh, I'm sick of this Spider-Man look. Put on the classic look. Put on one of the movies. Change the color palette. Like there's so many options.
Oh, when we get to the spoiler cast, we'll talk about the things people are complaining about, but that's a thing for another day. At this point, I get like I already tipped my hand. This is a 6 out of 6 for me. Like, what would you think about this one?
Easily a 6 out of 6. I was actually thinking, we were talking earlier that this is like the greatest superhero game ever made. First, I completely agree with that statement. I think that's true. I'm starting to think that the Spider-Man franchise might be my favorite video game franchise of all time. Like just the games themselves. Maybe not as a franchise. I obviously Legend of Zelda, Sonic, like they all have a special place in my heart.
Yeah, I would say it's definitely the best franchise we've gotten in the last 10 years.
Easily. Oh, easily. Yeah. Like there is nothing that compares to these games. And I mean the whole trilogy of games that we have. And I'm assuming there's probably going to be more because this makes Sony a lot of money and everything. But I honestly am going to say that these are one of the greatest video game franchises. I don't mean Spider-Man in general. I mean these specific Insomniac games, this trilogy, at least that we have so far.
It makes me so pumped for Wolverine now because I want to see how they mesh with that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because if this is how they can do this, I can only imagine that they, at least hopefully, are able to do the Wolverine game. As long as they take their strengths that they clearly have when it comes to superhero games and they stick to that and not try and do something completely new that they're not good at, I'm fine with it being different. It doesn't have to be like the Spider-Man games, but stick to their strengths. They're really good storytelling, the type of cutscenes they do. Like stick to what they're good at, and then they could make an amazing, amazing Wolverine game.
Yeah, absolutely. So before we cut this off, because obviously we're going to be talking a lot more about this game, is there anything else that you missed that is spoiler free? Because I'm trying to think if there's anything that I've missed because we got a little bit about the gameplay. We basically said as much about the story as we could. Got the
Yeah.
characters in. We talked about the bugs. I think we probably have covered everything we need to. I mean, all I can say is if you're really on the fence about it, you'll want to play this game, but give it a month or two just to make sure that it's completely patched out so that any of the bugs that we're seeing in the first week are gone. And again, also you wait long enough, there's probably gonna be DLC anyway. So if you really don't care, or your backlog is like Chris's and you have like 7 years to go before you catch up, just wait for the Game of the Year edition. There's probably gonna be that out there for cheaper, and it's probably gonna come with all the DLC, and it'll be great because I can't wait for whatever they come up with for DLC for this game. And I have like 11 ideas of what it might be, and I'm not sure which one it is.
Yeah, there's so many. Yeah, the only thing I can think to say is the game is incredible. The gameplay is amazing. It's fun the entire time. You and me did the same thing, and I know I haven't done this with a game in years. I don't know if you have, but
Every
on
Trails
Sunday.
game.
Okay, every Trails game. Okay, fine. I have not had a game that I've actually had grip me where I played from 1 p.m. to 3 a.m. And the only reason I stopped at 3 a.m. is it was a Sunday night and I had to wake up for work in a few hours. That is the only reason I stopped, or I would have kept going.
But was it worth it?
Oh, it was so worth it. Oh my God. I was so tired.
That's all that matters.
I'm pretty sure I laid in bed still just swinging through New York in my mind, which was amazing. But yeah, the gameplay, addictive. The story, incredible. The graphics, I played on performance mode just because I have to do 60 FPS. My TV supports 120. I tried the 40 hertz mode. I maybe should have stuck with that because it was like beautiful. It's like this uncapped.
There's still like decent ray tracing too in performance mode. It's not like you're getting that cut out. There's some pretty good reflections in there.
Yeah, I ended up switching to the 60 FPS just to like stick with performance and stop overthinking it because I definitely do that with settings. And the game was absolutely stunning in performance mode, and it only gets better with fidelity and stuff. So depending obviously on what type of game, what matters more to you, a little bit better graphics or the stable 60 FPS, it looks incredible no matter which option you choose. The game does run incredible. Yes, there's some bugs. Imagine they'll go away. And oddly enough, even though they're game breaking, instead, in the sense that some of them actually crash the game, again, you're going to lose 5 seconds of gameplay because the actual autosave is so incredible.
Look, just everything about this chance to go to the bathroom, okay? Like that's all it is.
I actually used it as a chance to go make a coffee because I'd been gaming for like 9 hours straight and I knew I was going late. I made it. So yes, use those moments. I highly suggest it.
The game didn't crash. It was just looking out for you.
It was, yeah. It had been 9 hours and it was like, dude, stop.
Just I remember like the Wii screens, it would be like, you should take a break. That's what the game was doing.
It was doing that for me. Yeah. But yeah, if you were to look at a review and it had all the different like story, gameplay, music, the soundtrack, I was listening to that at the gym yesterday and today. Oh my God. Like it's very emotional sometimes. And it's like that theme, like the Spider-Man theme for this hits so hard.
I love
and you
how
can
it
hear
has like
Miles.
its own Avengers theme now. It's got its own very recognizable melody.
Oh yeah. It honestly, I think gaming does this. Movies don't really do this as much more. Themes are a big thing that used to be in movies and all that. This is doing it right. This has that iconic theme. And even Peter and Miles have their own themes a bit, and you'll actually hear them weaving into like one song and stuff. It's honestly just the entire game, top to bottom, is incredible. My only complaint is the bugs, and I'm extremely forgiving about them because I played right at launch and they really weren't that bad for me. Otherwise, this is just literally it's a perfect game. It's like the perfect game of the year.
Yeah,
easily.
And for those who are thinking it's not long enough, because I've seen that complaint, guys, 20 hours is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a conversation for another day, but like we need to get out of our heads that every game has to be super long to be a good game now. It's like, man, like games like, again, my top 3 games right now are this, Hi-Fi Rush, and A Space for the Unbound. They are all not long games. And Spider-Man 2 is the longest game that we have on my list. So it's proving that like a game can be shorter, but if it packs a hell of a punch, I don't really care.
Yeah, no, I did not mind the length. I platinumed the game. Obviously, I went for every trophy, but I didn't mind because it's actually a very good platinum that was fun to do. And again, whatever I beat the game in 22 to 24 hours, somewhere in there, is all it took me to platinum it. So it's sure, it's not 120 hours, but thank freaking God, because it just would have been filled with crap that would have made the game not good.
Yeah, like I was
I'm glad
relieved
they
when I
kept it
finished
what it was.
Starfield. I enjoyed my time with Starfield, but after 50 hours, I'm like, man, I'm so glad this is done so I can move on to something else. Like,
Yeah.
I love Trails games, and it does work out that they're very chill games. It's easy to also have podcasts in the background in the dead moments, so it's easy to fill that in. Starfield wasn't as easy to pull off with that because it's a little more intensive, but like, man, like, yeah, sure, it's cool when a game that goes over 50 hours and it's really engaging, but most games that go that long aren't that engaging anymore. And I said that even with Starfield, there's a lot of time where I'm not doing shit. So
Yeah,
like,
and I don't
Spider-Man, I didn't feel like there was dead time because everything was going specifically for something.
Yeah, and the thing is, if they added another 20 hours to this game so people felt it was more worth it, it would have gone down in its value.
Yeah, and people would
because
just been
they
complaining
wouldn't.
about how many of the EMF quests there are, or the nests that you got to deal with, like all of these little things that you deal with. Like, if they just added a bunch more of those, you would have been complaining that there was too much of that. Like, it goes both
Yeah,
ways. Like, when you want
exactly.
things to be padded out, that's what happens.
Yeah, they're not going to add 20 hours of more epic story and cutscenes. They're not going to do that.
If they did, the
'cause then
game
they're
would
gonna
be out in
burn-
2 more years.
Yeah, and it would have been too much. Then all of a sudden, we're not getting like a trilogy of games. We're getting like one game, and it feels too long that it's trying to do everything all at once
And
instead
it's
of
great because
taking
we're going to do a
its
spoiler
time.
cast, and I'm actually going to remember everything I want to talk about because there isn't so much to remember, and I did it all in a very short span of time, so it's all still
Yes.
in my head.
Yes, I think it's the perfect length. It is the absolute perfect length of a game. It's what games should be, 100%.
But yeah, 6 out of 6 from both of us. This is going to be definitely, we're going to be talking about this when we go to the end of the year and see what we think is actually going to be the 6 nominees for Game of the Year. It's a game we're going to be thinking about, that's for damn sure. So obviously, we're going to get into the spoiler cast for Friday, so check that out if you've already played the game and you want to get more conversation there. But obviously, if you have any thoughts, leave them in the comments below if you're on YouTube. I don't know if we have anywhere else you can leave comments for the audio versions. I don't really pay attention to that stuff because it's not really as common as YouTube comments are. But like, again, if you're going to leave comments, try to keep them spoiler free on this video because again, we'll have the spoiler cast for that. So try to, be nice to people that haven't gotten to play the game, especially Kaylan, obviously. Keep him happy there, or else he's going to give you that Jonah Jameson face. You got to be careful. But yeah, that's going to do it for this episode. So obviously socials, linktree/pixelplaypodcast. That's linktr.ee/pixelplaypodcast. Link to our socials where you can find the audio version and the YouTube version, link to our Discord, all that jazz. We will see you next Wednesday as usual for the main show. Like I said, Friday, if you're watching this episode as it comes out, will be the spoiler cast. No side quest this week, but that will be coming back next week. Most likely, unless somehow there's some crazy game that comes out and we have to do another one. But I doubt that's going to happen. I don't think Mario Wonder is going to get one of those.
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think there's going to be a massive amount of story spoilers for that. So yeah, that's going to do it for this week. We will see you guys if you're joining us on the spoiler cast on Friday. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye for now.